Hey, it's Howie Mandel, and I am inviting you to witness history as me and my Howie Do It gaming team take on Gilly the King and Wallow 267's $1 million gaming in an epic global gaming league video game showdown. 4 rounds, multiple games, 1 winner, plus a halftime performance by multi-platinum artist Travie McCoy. Watch all the action and see who wins and advances to the championship match against Neo right now at globalgamingleague.com. That's globalgamingleague.com. Everybody games.
Hey everybody, welcome and thank you for listening to this episode of Marriage Therapy Radio. My name is Zach Brittle. Today I'm talking to Dan and Natalie Slagle, who are just cool. I mean, they are figuring it out. They run a business together. They're helping folks organize their finances and think through like how to kind of knit together the whole family structure, including how money fits in, which I think is a brilliant topic. I think it's one that people need to talk about. Money, I've always said, is the strangest thing. It's one of the most brutal things in a marriage because you can measure it, because you can go, oh, you make this and you make that, so I must be worth this and you must be worth that. And this is more than that, so I must be more than you and less than you. And people get into so much trouble around trying to figure out how to be fair. And we cling to things that you can measure while ignoring things that you can't measure, like affection or attention or mental load is a big topic these days. And so I enjoyed wandering around in that with Natalie and Dan. They fall into a category that I might call sort of wise beyond their years. Chronologically, they're a little younger than a lot of couples we hear from, but they have a lot of wisdom, and I'm excited to share that with you. Before that, though, I just want to update you on a couple things. Let's see. I was out of town this last weekend. I went to Washington, D.C. to the Psychotherapy Networker, which is a gathering of therapists and speakers and colleagues and friends. I really only went out there for one reason, which was to see Terry Real do a keynote, and then to see he and Desiree Isasi deliver some content around RLT. And Desiree, who was on the podcast last year, she did 3 episodes with me and is one of my favorite friends and colleagues. And in at least one capacity, she's my boss, which I'm grateful for. Did amazing, knocked it out of the park. I'm smarter than I was 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago about some of these principles and practices. And I got to hang out with some friends and some family. I walked around the mall in Washington, D.C., looked at some monuments, went and saw the Lincoln Monument and the Washington Monument. And we did Vietnam, and we did, the Korean one. That's the one. That's wild. That one is wild because it's got like the 19 guys who are just sort of walking through the marsh. Hung out with my brother and my mom, who was the star of Marriage Therapy Radio episode 383 from last summer. You can hear their story, my mom and my stepdad. But I had this realization because I walked into the Smithsonian, the Air and Space Museum, and I was immediately in 5th grade again. I remember walking to that room for the first time. There are planes hanging from the ceiling. There's a lunar landing module over on the right, but it's this big open hall with just lots of air space. And then airplanes and moon, sort of moon memorabilia, I guess. But it was wild. It was like in my body. I was like, holy cow, I've been here before. And, I'm going through this phase in my life where I think everything is existential and, everything has this deeper meaning or could have this deeper meaning. And to me, honestly, it has to. We live in a world right now that's chaotic and unpredictable, and it's easy to feel powerless and to feel outraged about things that are maybe not going the way that you want them to go. And that can turn into sort of like giving up and quitting, make you just want to play video games and accomplish something. But I actually think that the accomplishment is staying present and connected to your people. I was with my brother and, I told him this story about how I was at a bar with some friends. Me and a bunch of 50-year-old friends were kind of sitting in this one booth, and we were all cranky and old and really glad that we were sitting down. Meanwhile, all these 20 and 30 somethings were in front of us doing their thing, man, dating and, dancing and drinking and just enjoying being together and being young. And there was this one couple, they were clearly a very new couple and, just started dating. And then she was there with one of her friends, and that friend, let's call that friend, I don't know, we'll call her Julie or something. Julie was saying to the boyfriend, "Oh my God, you hate me so much, don't you? I just know you hate me. You're probably so tired of me already." And it was like, I have seen this play out so many times. It was not original or interesting, but I was completely fascinated because everything has already happened. Everything has already happened, and everything is going to happen again. That same conversation happened with me. I was like the guy in that conversation. It has happened. So it's happened 30 years ago. It'll happen 30 years from now. It was also happening in a million other bars across the world. And anyway, my brother and I were joking because every time we would see something in DC or see something while we were walking around, we would just laugh and say, everything's already happened and everything's happening again. But again, it begs the question for me about, what does that mean? It means that you got to stay connected to people you're with. You got to stay connected to your brother. You got to stay connected to your mother. You got to stay connected to your partner, your friends, your colleagues, your clients, if you're a therapist. And you have to measure the things that really matter. Things like intimacy and connection, things like listening and responding. And you got to control what you can control. And if that just means deciding to have a great day with your family in a singular place, I hope that you can do that. My brain is just wild because, again, I think everything means something. I had a whole conversation with a buddy this last week about how important flag football was, which is wild. But then it just also begs this question about how we decide that things are important. Anyway, I am up in my head. I'm about to finish my book. It's due in 1 week from today. Then my editor gets it and we dial it in. She makes it better. I'm grateful for her. But in the meantime, I have to duck my head, stay focused on the task at hand. And I turn in the book on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, Rebecca and I get on a plane to Japan. We're going to go see Mary and hang out and kind of experience a different part of the world. Talk about trying to be present. I am going to leave my laptop behind. I'm going to have somebody manage my inbox. I'm going to take books made of paper, and I'm just going to try and be present in another country that I don't know anything about. And I'm excited about that. In the meantime, I get to introduce you to Dan and Natalie Slagle. Again, this couple is wise beyond their years. They have clearly thought through the way that they want to show up as partners, as parents, as business owners. And I just really enjoyed talking to them. I think if you are in the market for somebody to help you organize the way you think about your financial life, I would recommend that you give them a shout. And if you want more information, then as always, this is a very cool conversation. Stick around. Well, what are you up to? What are you doing? What do you do in Portland? What's your scene? You're Natalie and Dan, and you're married. Tell me about who you are. Tell us the story real quick.
Dan, take it away.
You want me to jump in? Okay, yeah, absolutely. We are Natalie and Dan Slagle. We're a married couple, professionally and personally, obviously intertwined. We own Fyooz Financial Planning, a financial planning firm really geared towards helping high income earning, more millennial Gen X couples in terms of utilizing their resources to ultimately live the life they want, however that may play out.
You are a couple helping couples. Is that your brand? Is that how you identify it? Yeah.
Yeah.
What
on the financial side of things?
Okay. What makes you good at that?
We professionally have a good background in finance. We have our education, certifications, and then professional experience. And then personally, we started to understand that there's more to this whole game of personal finance than just the technical side, because we found ourselves still arguing about money or thinking about it differently. And it's the same situation, but I think we should do it one way. Dan thinks we should do it another. And we're like, we're the experts and we're still not aligned here. Let's pay attention to that discrepancy and work on it. And obviously to start, it was let's work on it for ourselves. And then we both worked at different financial institutions. And then we kind of looked at each other one day and we're like, maybe we should do this for people directly, and we should be the company. Like we should stop working for other people, and we should just do it the way we want to do it and the way we want to talk to other couples about it, while still bringing in all the technical aspects that come with taking care of your finances.
Right on. Dan, you have thoughts on that? Why are you good at this? Same?
Same. I think Natalie nailed it. I think the one thing I'll add is we started to identify that we each came from different backgrounds in terms of how we were financially raised, and I think that's where we butt heads a little bit early on in our marriage. And we thought, again, to Natalie's point, if we're having these problems, it's likely many couples are, and we're supposed to be the financial experts in the room. So it's giving really, couples the space to have conversations around what was money like for you growing up, and sharing some of those stories, because a lot of what we found in working with our clients and even just communicating with the general public up to this point is typically you have different stories, different backgrounds again, and how that intersects into actually managing the money as well. It can create a lot of tension.
Okay. I'll bite. Dan, what was money like for you growing up?
I love it. Money was, I grew up in I'll call it a middle-class family. My dad was self-employed, spent most of his days, he sold various tire products. That was
tires like that go on cars and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Valve stems, air hoses. So he would drive around in his van every day, going to different facilities and dropping off product. And then I recall many nights he would come home and he'd do a lot of the bookkeeping. My mom is immigrated from South Korea back in the 70s, and my mom worked as an accountant for the university system where I grew up. So money for me, I think comfortably was middle class. I tended to get the things that I wanted when I asked for them, whether that was new sports equipment, a new gadget, whatever it may be. And the love language that my parents showed me was gift giving. And that's what I experienced a lot growing up. And I'll let you ask Natalie that question. You can see, Zach, where it turns different for both of us.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I got all kinds of questions about what you just said. Like one, for example, would be, as someone who understood gift giving as a love language, did that, as far as you know, generate for you entitlement? Like, I get what I want, or did it generate an appreciation of generosity, or some third thing, or some other thing? Like, how did you make sense of that, or how have you made sense of that?
Yeah, as I've gotten older, it more speaks to the generosity aspect. I think that's something that has carried with me today, and that's my form of showing my affection to many of the people that are close to me. I would like to toot my own horn and say I'm good at gift giving. It's something that I enjoy doing. So it's definitely played a role into what's important to me when it comes to finances.
Okay. All right. And then Natalie, you have your story of how money made sense to you, or how you made sense of money when you were growing up. What's that?
My experience with money growing up was middle class. So same as Dan. It was very much those extra things that we wanted. It was expected at an early age, as early as, let's see, 5th grade. When I was 11, that's when I got my first babysitting gig. And it was like, oh, you have the potential of making money. Now we need to start separating. This is my parents talking to me, that now we need to start separating what's Natalie's wants, because Natalie can take care of some of that. And what is Natalie's needs, we're going to take care of all of that. So I was fortunate to have all of my needs taken care of, but the wants at an early age started to be separated, and that responsibility fell onto me. And I've had a job ever since. I'm grateful for that experience. It's also, when I'm hearing Dan, and I've never heard someone ask that question the way you asked it, Zach, of, gift giving, or you were giving gifts. Is there a sense of entitlement there? And I was really intrigued, and I wanted to hear how Dan would answer, because I don't think it gave a sense of entitlement to Dan. And I have benefited from Dan being a great gift giver. He is exceptional. I get very anxious when I have to give Dan a gift because it's never as good. He's exceptional. But there's the thing that has come between us is, again, this, I have this anxiety of, I think we should really be paying attention to the numbers, Dan. I think we should be looking at the budget. I think we should, I get this scarcity mindset. Okay, there's only, we made this budget and we said we would spend $3,000 this month, and now we're at $2,700. We can't spend more than $300, Dan. And Dan's like, we can. We're going to be just fine. So there's maybe not the sense of entitlement, but Dan has always been more secure in our finances. And you tell me where this comes from. And I know you're just learning about us, but I wonder if our experiences and my wants needing to be taken care of by me first had me pay attention to these small little numbers at such a young age. And that's just kind of spiraled to how I still am today.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the thing about money that I think is so intriguing, particularly for a couple, is it's brutal. It's a brutal topic because you can measure it. It's problematic.
Yeah.
You can't measure affection or attention or intimacy. But you can go, $2,700 means something. 3,000 means something. And if it doesn't mean the same thing to a couple, then it can be really scary because you have to actually spend time negotiating that. I mean, I'll tell you my story, and I don't mind telling you my wife's, but my wife's story. I do make a joke sometimes that I have 3 wives. I have a 52-year-old wife, I have a 23-year-old wife, and I have a 19-year-old wife. The other 2 are my daughters. But everything I know about relational skills in a marriage, I have to use with these 2 as well. So that's my joke. But my family declared bankruptcy in high school. I also started working when I was about 13 years old. I had an actual job, the kind that you have to apply to the government to let you have a job as a teenager to work past. I had that kind, not babysitting, but I worked in a restaurant, and I've worked ever since. I've worked the whole time, but I didn't know anything about money other than that you had to work to have it. You had to be working to have money, and then my wife grew up on the outskirts of New York City in one of the wealthiest communities in America, and her parents were affluent, and she vacationed in Club Med and Vail and never wanted for anything. Also didn't know anything about money, knew nothing because she never had to learn about it. So the 2 of us came into our marriage, thinking, what are we supposed to do with this thing that, she's like, there's always money. I'm like, there's never money. And we both didn't have any idea how money worked at all. So, then you start to measure it and you go, the thing that's on a spreadsheet, we looking at a spreadsheet, we see the exact same number, 2,700, and it means wildly different things to each of us. How have you learned to navigate that? How have you learned to make sense of that for yourselves? Maybe for your clients. I'm more interested in the 2 of you than I am in your clients, but what have you learned?
Well, we have learned, and we're I would say this is going to be a journey that we're always unraveling together.
Of course,
is communicating about it. I mean, I wish it was something sexier or,
I know, right?
But dang it, we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And what happens is, I think when we first started to merge our lives together and again, this is where the problem really stemmed, is I think there was assumption that was going on, assumption of the decisions we were going to make financially, assumptions of what that meant to each person. And that's when we were both wrong. And so what has helped is us pulling up the spreadsheets. I mean, we're financial planners, we're financial advisors. We love our spreadsheets, and we pull it up and we go to a coffee shop. We go somewhere public. For us, going and talking about these things in a public setting where we can't get too elevated, that has worked so well to to just sit with the numbers together, look at that same number together, and just ask, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about this decision? What's coming up for you?
Mm-hmm.
That has helped. And just what was it, Dan? Maybe a week or two ago, what we realized is every time that conversation happens, I feel amazing. Dan's like, I've been good. This whole, he's cool as a cucumber kind of guy. And I'm like, why aren't we doing this more often? So we finally put it, we follow a calendar. Our calendar kind of like runs our lives, and we put it on the calendar as this monthly kind of date that once a month we're just going to go in, we're going to look at the numbers together, and we're going to have a conversation. And we even laid out the the questions that we're going to ask each other. So it's just this methodical, easy, like, let's just go in and do this check-in.
Yeah, the thing that's wild about that is you're looking at the number. Let's say it's 2,700. That's our number for the day. And then you have to decide, what are we talking about? Because if you're talking about that number vis-a-vis February or March, that's different than talking about that number vis-a-vis retirement or college or, and sometimes you're talking about the same number, but you're talking about it in a totally different context. So yeah, learning how to communicate it and expose that question is really critical. And some people don't know that they're not doing that until they go, one of them is going, we're going to be fine, because he's saying, we're going to be fine. We're going to be able to retire. The other one's going, we're not going to be fine. We only have $300 left when there's still 12 days left in the month. And that conversation is also misaligned because, again, you can measure it. Time and money you can measure. Everything else is this mystery that you have to actually discover. So. Yeah,
exactly. I think, and even just, this 2,700, it's just going to stick. 2,700, I feel like I see that as, oh my God, we've already spent $2,700. And Dan could see it as, oh, we still have $300 to spend.
We've only spent $2,700. Yeah.
It's just, and I was trying to think, is this a glass half full, half empty kind of thing? And I'm the half empty, Dan's the half full. Maybe a little. I don't know.
I don't really like that kind of thinking in terms of empty, full, in terms of the way that you might assign value to that. Like, is he a better person because he looks at things half full, or are you a worse person because you look at things half empty? That's where you get into trouble. I think you need people who can go, well, the good news is there's this. Well, the risky news is there's that. And we're looking at the exact same thing. And how do we now take that information and turn it into something like collaborative effort toward the thing we both want?
We like to always say with, clients, to even ourselves, the two things that don't lie are your credit card statement and how you spend your time, because the numbers are there. How you spend your dollars, it's true. In fact, at the end of the month when you pull up your statement, that's a measure of what happened. And for us, in order to get aligned early on, I think we had to really sit down and think hard about what are our household values, like how do we want to spend our time, how do we want to spend our resources, and that really allowed us to become more in alignment to here's where our dollars should be going. Our spending should be a reflection of obviously the necessities, but any extra money, for us, adventure is really important. Some of these experiences we get to have with our families. So that, and there's always, I always like to say there's competing interests, right? Like if we go spend a family vacation with our daughter, well, that means maybe we're not able to save as much for the whole year. Yeah. Right. So it's going back to what is truly important to you as a household. And again, obviously making sure you're taking care of your current self, your future self, but sprinkling in a lot of these desires that you may have as a collective unit.
Yeah. Hey gang, just a quick break in the action to remind you about GiddyBox. As you know, I've been getting kind of interested in how to stay connected to your partner in ways that you might call date night, but they're really just about being present while nothing else is in the room. That's, I think, the definition I'm coming to. And Rebecca and I are learning how to dance. We've got this video game that we're playing. We have adopted the UW women's softball team, which I'm so excited about. They just swept another road series at Michigan. So that's exciting. But again, we've also been getting excited about Giddy Box, which is a date night in a box. I have been recommending it to colleagues and to clients and to you. And we're excited about the month of date nights, which is a box of 4 date nights that you do over the course of a different week. Some of my clients have already reported opening it up and enjoying it. And it's doing something that I think therapy is designed to do that you can actually do in the comfort of your own home if you choose. And it's basically this: it's making the implicit explicit. So it's taking the thoughts and the feelings and the ideas and the fond, affectionate sentiments that you have towards your partner, and it's bringing them out into the open. This particular box of date nights helps you craft a story that is representative of where you've come from and then where you're going. So if you are looking for a way to spice up your date nights or trying to stay connected to one another, I want to recommend Giddy Box to you. You can go to getgiddybox.com. There are lots of different options there, including sort of one-offs, the month of date nights. You could even invest in something more substantial, like a milestone box that would be, hyper personal. Josh, who's running the show over there, has a great vision, and I love his mind for creativity and also for couples. So again, I want to point you towards getgiddybox.com. That's getgiddy.box.com. And if you use the code MTR at checkout, you'll get a little discount. I hope you'll check it out as a way to stay connected and to be more present with your partner. And now we'll get back to our chat. How do you guys do that? How do you take care of yourselves, your future selves, independent of your jobs, independent of your practice? Like, what do you do when you clock out?
When we clock out, I think about
like, Natalie, do you clock out? Do you clock out, Natalie?
I do clock out. I think I'm actually I really love a good clock out.
Okay.
And I like to turn it off because when I'm on, I'm on. And then, because when we go home, our daughter, she's only 19 months. She's very young, and it's a demanding age. We can't just let her be independent. And so our days beyond work are spent just together in this simple time of living, right? So we wake up and one of us is working on breakfast while the other one is playing. And then we get home and one of us is working on dinner while the other person is playing. And we're certainly at that time of life where that's kind of our thing. And we both try to get out and have our fun and do our, whatever interests we have. But a lot of our time is just spent on how are we being our most present selves in such a finite time in our daughter's life, and what does it take to clock out so that when we're with her, we're truly with her? Like, what boundaries do we need to set so that we're not thinking about work, we're not thinking about financial stresses, we're not thinking about the macro stresses of the world right now. We are thinking about her, we're with her, and we're providing this joyful environment as much as we can for a emotional 19-month-old.
Yeah. Dan, do you have thoughts on that? How do you clock? Are you a good clocker outer?
I've become better over time. Early on in our business, it was nearly impossible. It felt nearly impossible to clock out. And obviously having our daughter 19, 20 months ago at this point, it has made it a lot easier to clock out because I don't have the capacity to juggle it all especially when we're at home with her. And the one thing that allows us to clock out is it's more so the client base we work with, mostly in a similar life stage as us. So there's a lot of, I would say, respect around schedules and calendars. So we're pretty fortunate in that camp. But my clocking out continues to get better and better as the years go on.
You guys are in your early mid-30s, yeah?
Mid-30s.
People talk about the same life as us. You're mid-30s, you got one kid at home. Do you know if you're having more children? Is that a thing that you're thinking about, or you're certain? Are you clear one way or the other? Or you don't have to tell me, and we can take it out. But like, there's a reason I want to know the answer to this question.
We are. I would say if the decision was up to me, and you said you have to decide right now, what's it going to be, Natalie? I would say yes. And I would be curious on what Dan's answer is.
Yes, we're done, or yes, we're having more?
Yes, we're having one more.
Okay.
And we're still in this phase of let's see how all of this plays out. I'm a future I think about my future self a lot, which I think is why I ended up in this profession. And one of the reasons, and I think about how when I'm in my 50s or I'm in my 60s, I know bringing a newborn into the world, it's a very challenging time. But I think about my future self and how I'm not going to be remembering that or thinking, I'm going to be thinking about how cool my children are and how much time I love spending with them. And I hope that they have a great relationship. I know that's, wishful thinking, but you never know. And so I can't help but think, yes, it will make our lives, let's just call it yes, parenting is more challenging, but I have this immense sense of joy and love I have never experienced until having a child. And then I feel like my love for Dan exploded as well. And I don't want to lessen that. I would like to maybe experience it with one more being.
Yeah.
That is my answer. Dan, I would love to hear how you would like to respond to this.
Please tell all 8 billion people on the planet.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. But before I give my full answer, I'm going to deflect and say, when we first started dating, Natalie asked me the question, how many kids do you want to have? And
right away, I did ask that.
And I said 4, because she comes from a big family, so I kind of thought the number's going to get, it's up there. I think you turned around and you said you wanted 6 kids, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And here we are, 14, 15 years later since that conversation, and we have a lovely daughter. So numbers have changed over time. Now, with that being said, and I've told Natalie this, I am absolutely open to a second child. I'm kind of our daughter's 19, 20. So I'm like, okay, we got through what seemed to be a hard phase. Yeah. So you're probably, Zach, looking at us like, oh, you haven't even gone through the hard phase yet.
You guys have so much to learn.
This is what I say. This is what I say right now. What I say right now is, at 52, I am currently grappling with my belief that parenting young adults is harder than parenting young children. So I think about future you and the novelty that you're like, oh, I can't wait to be with my older kids. And I'm like, they are really hard, So yes, have little ones and then sell them at 16, But this is the reason I asked this question, is because I think there's, given your point of view and the work that you're doing, there's a difference between families who know this is our family. We're a unit of 3. We're working with 3. And you're like, we're working with 3 or 4 or maybe 7 or 8. That's, but when you get to the other side of nope, we're done. Maybe you've had your vasectomy, or maybe you've whatever, there's something that clicks in that becomes more clear and more certain about how your relationship with money changes, but also time and energy and whatever else. And, square footage, you can start to sell your crib and repurpose that room and turn it into something else. And so I'm always curious when I'm onboarding couples about your age, what do they know about their family unit? Is it established, or is it still in process? Because the process of growing a family is different than the process of raising a family. And that is going to have consequences on those things that you can measure: time, money, square footage, that sort of thing. So that's why I was interested to know kind of where your heads were at. By the way, my wife, when I first met her, she was like, I want to have 4 boys. And I was like, I want to have 0 boys. I will have as many girls as you want, but I am not going to. So we had 2 girls. I was delighted, so happy. She was like, do we want a 3rd? I was like, if we could guarantee it was a girl, then perhaps. But absent that guarantee, I'd like to call it good. So that's what we did. We called it good, absent the guarantee. So
well, now I'm curious. Why did you not want a boy?
I mean, this is all my trauma, right? I have a problematic relationship with my dad. I grew up with only a brother. So to me, the answer to all my trauma was not having boys. So it was having girls. Instead, it just triggered a different version of my trauma. And now I'm grappling with that. So
Got it.
Now I have three wives and I don't know what to do.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring this up, Zach, because we just moved, as I was explaining before. We just moved, and we went from one rental home to another rental home, and moving is expensive. You pay by the hour. And we moved all of our daughters' newborn stuff, all the newborn equipment. And I can't get rid of it until we make the final decision.
Yeah.
And to me, it's also like, well, we have to have another baby because someone has to use this. We can't be wasteful.
Yeah, this was $85 worth of moving expenses.
Yeah.
It makes sense in my head. And then, my brain, I don't know if, again, this is my mama brain or my futuristic brain, but I think about the financials of 2 daycare cost. I think about, okay, I'm going to have to take 3 to 4 months off of work. And because we own our business and, Dan and I are like the two people at the top, that's a really big impact on the business. And so that question I appreciate because it really does just kind of fester in my mind that when we do get to a point of knowing clarity, that's going to feel good on some of these things.
Yeah.
So Dan, do you have the same thing? Do you have the future you thing going on? Like what's future you like? Do you tell your clients future you will thank you for this, that, or other thing? Like,
I always say, just like the commercials, verbatim. This is something I've grappled with struggled with, I'll call it, over the last few years. My mom passed away 2 years ago, and at 75, and I think that also put into a little bit of perspective of why I'm not so worried about the numbers sometimes as Natalie, because I've seen it in our previous line of work within this industry where you get to a point where someone retires and within a few years they pass away, so I think that's something our clients struggle with as well. So future me, I've never really thought past, like future me was always, have a child, have a family. And I haven't really thought about myself transparently probably past the age 50, 55, I'll call it.
Okay. Yeah, that's intriguing. Yeah, we don't know. I mean, lately I've been telling my kids exactly that, which is, I don't know how long the story is. I don't know if we're just, we're only 20 years into, I have been in relationship with my parents longer as an adult than I was as a child. I had 18 years with them as a child, and now I've been in a relationship with them, my mom and stepdad, but for, 20, 30, 35 years as an adult. So something like that. But so it's like, we think we put all this energy into parenting when we're younger, and most of my parenting or most of my being in relationship with my children is going to be when they're also adults. So that's where I'm kind of like, okay, but now what is my job? Like now, what are we supposed to do? It's not quite a financial decision, but it is, because how much of mine is theirs, and what do I tell them? I said, I told them both. I said, you don't have a sugar daddy, but you have a stevia daddy. So I'm not going to leave them under a bridge or anything, but yeah, it's all variable, right? And I think the more we get anxious about today, the more like the anxiety is today. So I was actually thinking about something you said a little bit earlier, Natalie, where like if you are either running a business together or you're worried about finances, is it okay? And in fact, is it even wise to clock out and to create boundaries around these kinds of conversations? Like, are you allowed to stop thinking about the things that are worrying you or that are important to you? Is that a thing that you get to do? Because what happens if you're not paying attention to this important thing? Is it going to be okay without your attention? How have you navigated that? Or how do you help people navigate that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think about, like, for us clocking out, it has gotten to be more okay as our business has also just gotten to establish itself, our relationships with our clients. There's just more time there. There's more trust there. And we also have an employee now that supports us heavily. And so we have, the more we pour into her and build her up, there's just the trust aspects that everything will be okay, even if that means we have to clock out. And I think last year we got the first just real life experiences when, you send your kid to daycare for the first time and they get sick. And I remember kind of growing up in this industry and just seeing all these young parents having to not show up kind of unexpectedly because their kids were sick. And I was like, wow, man, kids get sick all the time. I remember thinking that. And now living it, I'm really, I feel so incredibly grateful we started our business journey when we did, because this was 6 years ago. So we had 5 years to kind of build it up and build our processes and build up Dan and I's professional and personal boundaries and learn, Dan and I had 5 years to learn from each other on, okay, Natalie really, I really do need to check out. Dan doesn't need it as much. And we've learned how can we still respect and honor our individual choices in that and be okay that they're different, to now being at this point where, being in our mid-30s and growing a family, it feels like we have no choice but to let go a little bit and trust that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah. Dan, what can you tell me about what you yourself have learned about the different roles, right? The husband, business partner, friend. How have you made sense of that as you have built this business and alongside Natalie? What are the takeaways as not just, as partners? I mean, literally a partner's kind of in all things. What do you know about that? Let me frame that question a little bit, because I think one thing that a lot of couples get, and COVID affected this, but then it's coming back now, but they got a chance to miss each other, right? They would go to work, she would go to her work, he would go to his work, or they would go to their separate offices or whatever. And they would come back at the end of the day and go, oh, I missed you. How were things? How did that go? And so when people are living their 40-hour-a-week life together and then the rest of their life together, that piece got removed. Again, COVID did that to almost everybody, but those people who are working in business together, how have you created, I don't want to say intimacy, but that's kind of what I mean. How have you gotten a chance to soothe that part of the equation?
That's something that we continue to work on. One of the biggest changes we made was, again, both of us were working from home. We got an office space where one of us will stay home and work, and the other person goes into the office space by our daughter's daycare, and we're separating locations so we can have that feeling, right? It's a really nice feeling rather than going to separate bedrooms to send your daughter and your partner off and give each of them a kiss and say, have a great day. I'll talk to you later, even though we may check in during the day, and then having the same feeling when they come back home. And that was a feeling.
Let me interject. For literally up until this January, we have worked together in the same house. And in the last month, we're now in a co-working space, and this week we're working together because my mom's in town, so we're trying to give her space at the house. But just this is a really recent thing. So when you were talking about this, Zach, I was like, oh my God, he knows. He knows that this was an area for us that we really needed to work. And so I just wanted to emphasize this is very recent that we've started to create this separation from each other.
Yeah. And how's it going?
We love it up to this point. Absolutely. Yeah. We're not giving up the space. That's for sure.
Yeah. Right on.
I mean, even just like you were saying, Zach, I feel like we kiss each other more because we're saying you don't kiss each other in the hallway when you go to your separate rooms and say, bye. Okay. Have a good time on your computer 10 feet away from me. Yeah. But I mean, at least maybe we should have been, you tell me, but we really weren't. And now it's, we one of us will pick up our daughter, the person who's going to the office, and then it's we kiss each other, and then we kiss our daughter and she kisses us. And it's this little kiss circle. And I'm like, this never happened. And now it does. And even at our office, even at our office space, we've been able to this past week when Natalie's mom has been in town, we've been able to go into the common room or the kitchen and have lunch together. Yeah. We didn't really do that at home a lot. We didn't go to our dining room and
and eat. I'm one who's always like, I rush through my meal and I want to get on to the next thing. And Natalie, you're like, let's just chill. And getting a separate space outside of our home has allowed us to just, I feel like, be more intentional, have more intentional time with each other.
Yeah. I totally feel that. I was, the other day, I accidentally had like a half an hour show up in my calendar. Like I had a free half hour and I was like, what did I do wrong? Like, what's wrong? Why do I have nothing to do right now? Because I'm always just like, boom, 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 fill it all up. So I get the idea of like moving from one thing to the next. And you got to slow down. You got to slow down long enough to kiss your wife. If that's the main takeaway of this podcast, then let's do it. Or long enough to kiss your partner. Hey, do I have to live in Portland to work with you? If I'm intrigued and I want to learn more about your business and I want help with my finances, what's the best way to find out who you guys are and how to work with you?
Go to our website, FyoozFinancial.com. You can click on our link. We have 2 free consultations to anyone. We'll talk to anybody. And we can work with essentially anyone in the U.S. We work with clients all over the U.S. and we love that dynamic.
But not ideally, but it seems like you hinted that maybe your ideal client is about your age, about your stage of life, trying to figure out how to make sense of this process of navigating the story that old you inherited on behalf of the story that future you wants to tell. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
You can have that. You can keep that as your marketing material. You can just plug that into your marketing material.
We're taking it. Yeah. And I'll just add to that. We used to work in the industry where we have, you're serving an older client base. And I think for us, why we have such a younger client base attracting more couples our age is the fact that there's so many life events happening in your late 30s, your 40s, and there's a lot of potential financial implications of the decisions you make, and that was really the I'll call it the jumping point of starting our business and being able to help people navigate those decisions.
Well, I'm into it, and at 52, what I would say is if you're on the fence, dear listener, about whether or not to invest in getting some clarity and wisdom around your finances, do it at 32. Do it at 22. But do it at 32. Do it at 42. Don't wait till 52. I actually am really grateful that you have a little bit of the niche in this way, because those of us who are on the other side of the kind of the developmental curve, I wouldn't trust us right now. The world is a crazy place. I want to put it in the hands of the young people who are who have some new perspective and optimism. So I'm all about it. Why did you call it Fyooz?
It's the phonetic spelling of the word fuse, F-U-S-E.
Okay.
And we wanted something to emulate the connection of 2 individual entities.
Okay.
So you think about like welding and you put 2 individual things together, and it's still very obvious that it's 2 individuals, but it is one thing. And so we wanted to honor and respect that it is 2 individual people with different stories, different backgrounds. And so how do we create a financial plan that respects and honors both of those individuals?
Your business is for couples. You're part of what you're trying to do is help families, not just individuals. Like, I'm assuming you could help an individual, but you're here talking to couples, yeah?
Yeah. We certainly have our handful of individuals because they're gravitated towards what we're doing. But our specialty is working with couples and knowing how to talk about money with couples.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to know of you as a resource. I have plenty of folks coming through my practice for whom this is an area of growth opportunity, and I'd be happy to point people in your direction. But you said it was, tell me again the website?
FyooZFinancial.com, F-Y-O-O-Z Financial.com.
Fyooz Financial.com. Very cool. Well, I've loved talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on Marriage Therapy Radio. And let's stay in touch. Let's be friends. And if I'm in Portland, I'll let you know. If you're in Seattle, you come see me.
That'd be great. Thank you, Zach.
Great. Thanks, Zach.
All right. Thank you, Natalie and Dan Slagle. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And for being willing to go on a couple of side quests with me as we thought about like how all this works together for good in a relationship. Just a reminder to follow us on Instagram. Thanks for all of you who are already doing that. Helped us got the blue check. That's amazing. You can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. That's always a help. Join our Patreon community. I think I'm going to use that space to launch a couple of surveys. There's some things that I want to know from you. And I'll be rolling that out in the next week or so. No, that's a lie. I'll be rolling that out after I get back from Japan. Because I want to get smarter about what's on your mind. And then, I think that's it. For now, I just want to thank you for the time and attention you're putting into making your relationship better today than it was yesterday.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA is heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.